Today, I'll be helping Joseph Stalin produce some LEGO World War II Soviet propaganda. To do this, I've conscripted some of the Soviet Union's finest LEGO minifigures, equipped them with the latest World War II LEGO accessories, and even enlisted the help of a new LEGO tank. Now at this point, you might be wondering, what the hell is going on? Well, I'd advise you not to ask too many questions, because this is what happened to the last guy that did. I'm going to be building this definitely not staged Soviet propaganda, which definitely took place during an actual battle. Now before you say it, yes I know this is Marshal Zhukov, not Stalin, but if I just swap his face to one with a mustache, voila, Comrade Stalin. Also, need I remind you what happens to people who ask too many questions?
I'm in danger!
Taking another look at the picture, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 soldiers. And in case you hadn't already spotted it, yes, there is a tank, which is here, just in case you hadn't found it yet. Fortunately, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 LEGO World War II minifigures, and I also have a new LEGO World War II tank, specifically the T34'85. Now to keep Stalin happy and my family breathing, I'm gonna make this LEGO World War II mock as historically accurate as possible, to the point where you will be bored half to death, which is still 50% more alive than you would be if you decide to stop watching the video now. Now this is the base plate I will be using for the build. Now you might have already noticed, where am I actually going to build it, because the desk that was here is now no longer here. If you watched my original LEGO videos, then you might remember my LEGO building desk was in the corner of the room. I then moved everything to the center of the room, and this is riveting content I know, but I have now decided to put it back into the corner of the room. So using this base plate, let me show you what to expect. Now, as there was to begin with, there is a camera above me, a camera to the left of me, and a camera over my right shoulder. Because all of the cameras are so much closer, it's actually much easier to follow the build, and it's also considerably easier to show cameras individual features such as minifigures, accessories, and so on. Now jumping back to our Soviet propaganda reference picture once again, of the 8 conscripts jumping from the tank, it looks like 2 of them are holding a PPSH-41. One of them has either a PPS-42 or 43, and as best I can tell, the rest of them have Mosin-Nagant bolt action rifles. Now I know this looks totally random and messy, but this is the perfect amount. I just need to remember in what order it actually goes. What is this mess? What am I doing? How have I made this so difficult? Alright, give me a second, bear with me, this will come together nicely.
One eternity later.
Alright, perfectly planned. First time, didn't need to go look for any parts or anything like that. Nailed it. A perfect base plate for some Soviet propaganda, don't you think? Oh, Stalin will be happy, I hope. Now, I'm always trying to find new ways of making my LEGO videos more enjoyable for you. Recently, I've been making use of Studio 2.0 renders to get some really nice cinematics. So I thought I'd try and do the same thing for a T34'85, which obviously just didn't go to plan. I found a Soviet SU-152, ISU-152, KV-2, even a Yak-9, but the elusive T34'85 was nowhere to be seen. That was until I found a lovely wee set of 3, a KV-1, KV-2, and eventually, yes, a T-34. Now, rendering out all of the clips that you just saw took approximately 72 hours, and you might be wondering, why? Well, I would remind you that Stalin has my family, and I would like to see them again. This LEGO World War II Soviet propaganda needs to be the best video I've ever made, so I'm adding all the bells and whistles wherever I can. Quick side note, by the way, while searching for Soviet World War II pictures to recreate in this video, I came to the understanding that Russians just really like sitting on tanks. Almost all of the tanks that I found had a bunch of Soviet soldiers just hanging off of them. Now, I also found this picture from the Battle of Berlin, and I would love to know more of what's going on here, because there's a story there, I'm sure. And I was also incredibly tempted to build this picture and title the video Tank versus Dog. If you know, you know. Now back to the building. As you can see, all of the floor has been placed, but it's all tan plates. So I've collected up a bunch of olive plates because I think this is probably going to be a better match for the picture. Now, obviously the picture is in black and white, but I still suspect that olive is probably closer to the true color than either tan or green would be. Now, even though this is going to be a small build, I don't have that many olive plates, and that's why half of them are actually just wedges that I'm going to just, try and fill in the area with. I swear to God if I run out of parts in this. If for some reason some of you feel bad for me that I keep running out of parts in the most tragic way possible, don't, because it's my fault, and by this point I should really know better. I don't know how this happens every time, but basically, whilst I was looking for more olive plates, I found this. It's a World War I Russian uniform and a World War II Soviet cap, meaning Stalin no longer needs to wear Marshal Zhukov's clothes, quite possibly saving my life. And as it turns out, I do have more olive plates. But before I place them down, let's first make sure our 8 Soviet infantrymen are properly equipped. Taking a look at the uniforms, you'll notice each of the soldiers have what appears to be bedding thrown over their shoulders. These are in fact greatcoats. So for my box of Soviet minifigures, I need to find 8 of them, which hopefully all have the greatcoat slung already. And to give you an idea of what I mean, look at this guy here. Yes, he's wearing an Ushanka, but the greatcoat is actually already printed onto the minifigure. So now I've just got to find 8 or 7 more of those. So this one again, it's a different design, and I think it's a completely different company that makes it, but again, you can see the greatcoat. Now, I'm not sure which of these is going to be better, but what we'll do is, okay, let's count out each of the designs. So that's like a dark greatcoat, a light greatcoat. Of course, Stalin will oversee the entire operation. Another dark greatcoat. In fact, I think this man may be dead. Beggars can't be choosers. Another dark greatcoat. This is also a dead man. Okay, we've got lots of Soviet casualties. They're not going to make for very good propaganda if they're all dead. Okay, that's 5, 6. I've also got these 2 Soviet shock troopers, which you may have seen before. At the moment, they've got body armor on, but they may have a greatcoat underneath the body armor, so... Nope, that was a waste of time. Okay, so we've got 6 of this design, 1 of this design. Now, I know I do have a couple more minifigures, which might get us over the line. So behind me up here is a collection of all my upgraded minifigures. You may have already seen these, but this Soviet minifigure has a greatcoat which gives us 8. Now honestly, if we take a closer look at this Soviet minifigure, this guy is really nice. He's got webbing, he's got a custom overmolded weapon and a custom helmet as well. Unfortunately for him though, he just happens to have the uniform we're looking for, and so he's going to be dissected for body parts. The game's the game. In Soviet Russia, anything goes. He's also got a really nice PPS 42 or 43, which I'll probably make use of as well. Okay, so there we go. We have now got 8 Soviet minifigures, all printed with a greatcoat thrown over. Taking another look at the picture, you'll see they're also equipped with webbing. Fortunately, I bought these Soviet webbing accessories, but there's only 5 of them. But fortunately, as we just found out when we stripped this man for parts, the upgraded LEGO minifigures also have webbing which we can repurpose for this build. Now honestly, I really don't want to do this because these minifigures look really, really nice. This is the second upgraded LEGO minifigure, and this is the 3rd upgraded LEGO minifigure. We can now add the webbing one at a time to each of these minifigures, and we're one step closer to an accurate build. And again, Stalin, of course, is watching over my every move, so I need to get this right. There we go. Now, all of our LEGO minifigures, if Stalin was to inspect them, we can now confirm each of them now has webbing, as they do in the picture. So, what is next? Well, next you'll remember we need 5 Mosin Nagants, 2 PPSH-41s, and a PPS-42 or 43. So, let's take a look at my arsenal of Soviet weaponry. I have a whopping 8 PPSH-41s, 3 DP-27s, a rack of Mosin Nagants, 2 SVT-40s, a Mosin Nagant sniper rifle, a range of really high quality overmolding weapons, some of which are already on the upgraded minifigures, and once again we've got even more stuff tucked away in this box here. Basically, I've got more than enough Soviet weapons to accurately equip the Soviet infantry. So, seeing as Stalin is inspecting the men, let's equip them. Right, one guy had a PPS 42 or 43, which looks like this. We're going to give that to the previously upgraded LEGO minifigure. He's regained a little bit of his stature. So that's our first man done. Now, 2 of them had PPSH-41s, which we will rob from this man here. Oh, and also I forgot about this nice little spinning display stand that I created. Another one here. Okay, that's our 2 PPSH-41s, which means the rest of them simply have Mosin Nagant rifles, which we have conveniently got a rack of rifles over here. We only need 5. This is definitely an alive man right here. Okay, Stalin's inspecting the troops, and we have got got the correct infantry weapons as well as the correct webbing, and they're also all wearing greatcoats. But what is still wrong? It's probably quite obvious unless you're blind or dumb, which I know some of you are. Finally, coming back to the image, you will see that the Soviet soldiers are all wearing a distinctive polka hat, yet my minifigures are currently wearing either an Ushanka, which looks like this, or a few different versions of the SSH-39 or SSH-40 standard issue helmet. These do come in a few different shapes and sizes, some of them even have printed detailing. But remember, Comrade Stalin is watching, and so there is no room for inaccuracy, which is why I've bought these helmets. They're not helmets, they're hats. Who's the dumb one now? These 8 polka hats will replace the SSH helmets and also the Ushankas that they're currently wearing, which will be historically accurate. Well, I say historically, this is propaganda we're creating, but, you know, technicalities. And there we have a Soviet minifigure army that's as historically accurate as possible. Accurate weapons, accurate hats, accurate webbing. They've also got greatcoats. Some of them do have a winter uniform, but there's not much I can do. Stalin is as happy as he is going to ever be, which is not very happy in case you didn't know your history. With that, these are the 8 LEGO World War II Soviet infantrymen, which will be diving off the T34'85 once it has finally been assembled. But before I do that, let's quickly finish up the base plates with the new olive parts that I definitely weren't there the whole time that I just didn't find. Let's do that first and then we'll build the tank. All right, let's just stick these guys over on the side and of course respectfully place Stalin standing up looking at them. It was admittedly a slow and painful process, but the base plate has now been filled with literally just one layer of plates. I made it sound like it was a big mission, but I suppose the next job is, you know, the T34'85 that I haven't built yet, that I've talked about a lot, that's literally the focal point of this build. Let's do that. Okay, what could possibly go wrong? We've got a set of instructions here. We've also got all of the parts that I need for the build are also already laid out. That's a 3 out of 5 skill level over here. And what that tells us is that most of you couldn't complete this because you're all dumb. So level 3 builder, basically a master builder. Let's get started. Right, what's the strategy for this? Do we just, let's be honest. Let's be honest, this is what's gonna happen, isn't it? Oh no, I made a mistake.
Day 3.
It's a new day, so let's recap. The base plate now has a foundational layer of olive plates. The 8 Soviet soldiers are as historically accurate as I can realistically achieve with LEGO, and the T34'85 LEGO tank is well underway. To bring this LEGO World War II build to life, I've already prepared a bunch of LEGO parts on the side, specifically a mix of plates to give the build some more depth, tiles to break down the profile of the studs, and of course vegetation, which will be the final thing we add. As with the T34'85, as you can see, I've made a bit more progress with the build. Having now added sloped armor on either side of the hull, this is really starting to come together. And now for a really important announcement. After 5 entire years on YouTube, I am finally releasing an merch. And yes, it is this here. It's a U2's plushie. This will be a limited edition, one-time release, and the plan is to make this the first of a set of 5. This guy is the recreation of my Falklands minifigure, but also the main channel, the Plastic Scott channel's profile picture, and it will be releasing on Friday the 13th of December next month. Now that will be the only time it's gonna get sold, so if you want to collect the set of 5, make sure you don't miss the first drop, which again is next month. But for now, this guy is going to live in the corner over here on my desk. Okay, so it's high time that I actually finish the T34'85 so that I can figure out where it's actually going to go on the base plate. And we're making good progress, to be honest. It's most of the way done. That looks like the hole where the turret is going to sit. Presumably the turret is going to sit rotating on that little, I don't know what you call it officially. We're going to call it the rotating thing because that's the only thing I can think to describe it. It's a thing and it rotates. Right, next page. We're flying through this now. You know what, that actually looks really, really good. Like, the way they've done the wheels on the bottom before the tracks were even in, I'm already impressed. It really never ceases to amaze me because I know for, oh, I've broken something. I know for a fact that I would never have the talent, time, or patience to do something like this myself. So fair play to whoever designed that because it's pretty compact. Oh, am I supposed to put the tracks on as well? Oh, this is the bit that I hate doing. I suspect I may have some pre-made tracks already because I really can't be bothered joining all those together. I just not got the patience, man. I can confirm I've got a box of tracks that are already put together, which means you don't have to watch me do all of that. It means I don't have to do it either. And there we go, how easy was that? And also, I will say, like, again, the level of detail that goes into the tracks and how compact and well designed these actually are is really quite impressive. So, that's starting to look like a T34'85. We're making progress. Our boy Stalin over here, best be pleased with what's taking place. We've even got a Soviet flag to go with it. I tell you what, Stalin can be a cheerleader for now. He's living the Soviet dream. It's a Soviet paradise. He's got his flag and everything. I'm sure this won't get my family shot. I mean, what's not to like about this? If I got this motorized, that would be truly something else, wouldn't it? Right, I'm losing focus. We're flying. Oh, now we just got to add these bits on, which have already been made for us, which is very, very convenient. Okay, it seems like I've skipped another step because that one was just already done for me. So, no complaints from me. Okay, so we're pretty much there. This is the T34'85's turret. I imagine it just needs to go slap down there. We also need to pinch, I'm sorry, Comrade Stalin, I need to pinch your flag. Stick the Soviet flag on the back like so. And then for the moment of truth, a Soviet T34'85, and tell you what, actually, that's class. It's got a lot of detail. So we can yeet those away, and now we've got an idea of how big the T34'85 is and where it might actually end up going. I may have missed a few parts actually. So this is the finished article, the finished T34'85, and I'm not gonna lie, it's actually pretty good. The turret spin is really, really nice, but yeah, my fears are definitely confirmed. It's probably small enough to have warranted doing this build on a 32x32 baseplate rather than the 48x48, but woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't. So this should give you a pretty good idea of the scale, and also trying to match that, trying to match the camera angle from the Soviet propaganda. Now, before we place down the infantrymen jumping from the tank in heroic fashion, we first need to get the detailing on. The T34'85 is finished and it looks fantastic. Possibly good enough to put a smile on Stalin's face, but it appears no. Actually, no, it's not. Now, before we put our 8 Soviet infantry onto the tank, or jumping from it rather, we first need to fix the tank in place so that it's not moving around. So I basically just put a concrete pillar on the bottom of the T34'85's hull, and then that's going to allow me to hopefully, if I can find where it goes, fix it onto the base plate. Right, now, because it can technically turn, it's placed down, but it can swivel around because I didn't want to get it like perfectly flat. I want it to be an angle to the build here. So I'm going to just place down some temporary like struts just to hold it at that specific angle. For example, one here, pick one here, and let's get one over there. Basically, what that does is it stops it rotating so that we can start building the terrain around it. And of course, we don't forget we've got these 8 LEGO minifigures, which we now need to try and get on to the tank somehow. I don't know how we're going to do that because it's all smooth edges. First, I'm just going to do something else, which is detailing with plates. Specifically, I'm going to use a combination of tan, dark tan, and olive plates to try and recreate what I think the field would look like if this wasn't a black and white image. All of this is just going to help provide the build with a bit more three-dimensionality, because if it's too flat, it's going to look boring. And it's important just to get a bit of variation in the depth of the terrain as well. However, before I do anything else, I first want to start off with doing where the tank's actually been driving. And I think adding in some of these reddish brown plates will help make it look like the tank's like driven over the terrain. Okay, you know what? It doesn't look particularly nice at the moment, but I reckon we could make that work. Roughly speaking, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it look like the tank's been driving along and you can see where it's been. Now, this is just the first layer, and I'll use tiles and studs and some other materials from these bits and bobs that I've got over here to help make that, or bring it to life. Again, everything is just to keep this guy from killing me. But for now, I'll just leave that there as a bit of a template, a guidance, something to come back to, because now what I want to do is I want to move on over to just getting a bit more three-dimensionality onto the build. Okay, already, that's like such a small change, but I feel like that makes a massive, substantial difference to what we're actually looking at. All I've actually done here is placed a bunch of 2x2 flat tiles, and it just creates a bit more three-dimensionality, a bit more depth, makes it look way less uninteresting. Really simple trick just to get a bit of depth and feel and personality into the build. Now, much like the plates, the tiles are going to come in a few different shapes and sizes. We're going to try our best to hide some of these studs, because if there's too many studs, it actually kind of tends to look a bit cheap and nasty. Okay, I think that's a good start. Again, it's one of those things where you kind of just got to trust the process, because once the vegetation's over this, once the rest of it is down, I think it will look a lot better. Hopefully you're enjoying this new desk setup. Let me know if you like this more than the last one, but let's have a quick look at how this is taking shape. Again, what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to break up the domination that Olive has enjoyed so far. This is still a work in progress back here, so don't worry, it's not going to look quite so basic as that. We're just trying to break up the visual scene. So A, it's not completely flat, as it was to begin with, but B, it's not completely dominated by the olive, and there's a bit of tan, or dark tan rather, now going in there. And I think if we carry on doing that, then when we get to the vegetation, this is going to start to really take shape. And again, look how nice this T34'85 is. They've really done a good job. Maybe Stalin will actually forgive me after all. So moving now on to the 1x1 studs. Okay, all in all, I'd say it's going relatively well. What I've done is I've tried to blend in the dark tan plates to where there's already raised terrain. What I'm hoping brings it all together is the vegetation, which we will do now. So let's start with the biggest first. I really like these dark red or like maroon leaves, but I just have never found like somewhere to use them. They might, because they match really nicely with the olive. You know, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna give this a try. More of an autumn vibe, that's the only problem. I'm just not sure it's quite the right vibe that we're going for. But it does give us some much needed, because at the minute it just looks way too olive. There's just way too much olive, which is a problem. Tell you what, there's no harm in trying. I'm just gonna give it a go and we'll see how it looks. What do we think, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, so taking a little bit of a closer look here, you guys can probably let me know if you like this or not. I'm still not 100% convinced. So as it turns out, this may in fact be one of the examples of when the trust the process actually works. So let's take a closer look before we place down the minifigures. So progress has been made. It actually does kind of look good. I sort of like it. You can see the tank tracks coming out the back here. Because I've put down so much vegetation around the outside, it kind of works. If I'd only put half as much vegetation around the tanks, it wouldn't look good. But because there's so much of it, it kind of hides the plates underneath. Frankly, I'm pretty happy with how this turns out. It just really depends on whether or not Stalin is. Cut to Stalin and see what he thinks. Stalin's not happy. You may have already noticed we've got 2 minifigures here and 6 minifigures over here. These are the infantrymen that are jumping from the tank, and these are the ones on the far side which seemingly have already jumped from the tank. We're going to place them as accurately as possible, starting with this gentleman here who is holding a Mosin Nagant. Now I'm looking at the picture to try and get this right. I think one of them is approximately here. Maybe he's there. So these are the 2 guys who have already hit the ground running. The rest of them are airborne. So starting from the left, which is here, and working our way around the tank. I've created a little feature for the bottom of these guys. I'll try and show the camera. I'm going to try and suspend them using this little contraption off of, well, literally the suspension, I suppose. Fingers crossed. I hope this works. Come on. I'm onto something. There's an idea here. Okay, I'm gonna go with that for the time being. He's jumping off the front of the tank. Now, next up, I believe, is the front right of the vehicle, which is this gentleman here, the guy who earlier on we equipped with the PPS 42 or 43, and he's kind of jumping off front, like a front and forward and in front of the tank, interestingly. We wouldn't recommend that, but each to their own. There we go. Then next up, I believe, is another man. Let's look at the picture. The next man has got a PPSH 41, which is this gentleman here. He's going to be the next guy that's just behind that, followed again by another individual. In fact, sorry, that's the guy that goes even further behind. One second, I got that wrong. This is the next guy up, actually. And then the guy behind him has got another PPSH as well. This just looks so ridiculous, but it kind of works, honestly. Next up is another gentleman, once again wielding a Mosin Nagant. And then last but by no means least, the 8th Soviet Infantry, Mr. Stalin Stalin still in the corner watching it all happen. And there we go. Oh my god, take a look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually surprisingly happy with how this turned out. I have successfully recreated some Soviet propaganda using nothing but World War II Lego and Lego accessories, and just generally I'm pretty happy with this, and I hope that Stalin is too. Goodbye. Don't forget about my brand new and only piece of merch I've ever made in 5 years, which we'll be releasing next month. Collectible set of 5. Make sure you don't miss out, because this is the only time this gentleman will be getting sold. That is all. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.